All right, so this is if you are absent on Tuesday the 3rd, which is a red day, or Wednesday the 4th, which is a white day. So if you're absent either one of these days, that's what this video is for. Quick little thing for you, if you're not here this day, we ended up getting our second notebook today. We started those before we went on break. I had you guys number them. So when you get back, make sure you get this note or the new notebook. This is the one that we did last quarter, or last semester, I guess I should say, which we will continue using, but you will have that. And then you're going to have your second notebook. And we're going to have that numbered actually to 61, not 51. So when you get back to school, make sure you check in with me and we will get that for you. Okay. So what we did is we just kind of jump back into mentor text, essentially, is what we ended up doing. So what you'll need to do is on a separate sheet of paper, because you don't have your notebook, you don't have your new one. But on a separate sheet of paper, what I'm going to have you do, here, I'll just do this on a separate sheet as well. Give me just a second. So on a separate sheet of paper, I would like for you to brainstorm a little bit before we do the mentor text. So on this piece of paper, what we've been doing, kind of like what we did last quarter when you were in Mrs. Oakout's class. I'm going to show you this. On page 38, you guys ended up doing this, kind of putting the brainstorm off to the left, and then you wrote the other stuff on to the right. That's kind of what I'm going to ask you to do today. So on this separate sheet of paper, you're just going to kind of draw a line down the side here like that. So then this portion on this side, on the left-hand side, will be for brainstorming. It's different colors so you can see it better. Okay, and then this side over here is where the writing will actually be when we get to that portion. Okay, so what I want you to do before we even start anything is I want you to brainstorm some things that you remember about 2022. Okay, so you're just going to think about all the different things that you did in 2022. If it's helpful to kind of chunk that up instead of thinking about the whole year, you could think about, okay, what do I remember about December? What do I remember about November? And just having those different things in there, okay? So I'm going to write a couple things, and then I want you to go ahead and just pause the video and kind of write something for yourself. But something that I remembered is, let's see, Kinsey turning 5. She's my youngest. And then Chloe turning 8. Some other things that I remember about 2022. My mom had hip surgery. Some other things I remember, we went to Mount Rushmore. So again, I'm just writing down things that I remember doing in 2022. So you're just going to write down a few things on what that would look like in the sense of things that you remember about 2022. So go ahead and pause this and see if you can come up with a little list. Maybe do it for like 2-ish minutes or so to come up with your own list. Okay, so go ahead and hit pause, and when you're done, come back in about 2 minutes. All right, so at this point, hopefully you have a good little list over here of the things that you remember about 2022. If you need to write down 2022 up here, you can also do that. But now what we're going to do is we're going to set that to the side, and I'm going to show you the mentor text that we're using. The one that we're using is actually this one right here. This is the paper copy. It is on this kind of orangish, salmon-ish color. So if you're able to, actually, no, I have to show you where to find this. So in order to find this online, if you go to the Reading Writing course and go to Mentor Text, it's the first one. You're going to click on that. And then it'll open up and you can zoom in, all that kind of good stuff. If you have access to a printer, awesome. I'll have you print that. And that way you can annotate it as you go along. If you do not have a printer, you can write your annotations on your sheet of paper that you have. What I would do is on this same sheet of paper, instead of writing it on this page, because you're going to write more stuff, you can turn over on the back, and whatever annotations or things that stand out to you as you are listening to this poem being read, you can pause and you can write those things down on the back here. Okay. So whatever you would have underlined or circled or annotated in that way, you can just write it on the back and do those annotations. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to this. You can have this open if you would like, just to kind of look at it. You might want to do like a split screen so you can see it that way too, because I'm going to direct you to go to a video here in just a second. Amanda Gorman is the person who actually wrote this, and you may recognize her after you watch this video, okay? So instead of just reading this, I want you to actually hear it from the author. So in order to do that, you're going to go back to the this page here, and you're going to click on this first link, New Days Lyric. You're going to click on that, and I want you to listen to that mentor text. Okay, so it's the same thing that's what's on this screen. She's going to be reading just this part on the left-hand side. Okay, so go ahead and pause and go click on that and listen to it for me. All right, so at this point, you should have already listened to the New Days Lyric. And if you were able to print your mentor text, awesome. You should have made some annotations on it. If you were not able to print the mentor text, you can write that again on that sheet of paper that you have. I'm going to show you the one that we ended up doing in class today with the different mentor text that we have here, our annotations. So I kind of just went through and kind of underlined things that kind of stood out to me and why that stood out to me. And I had some other kids in the other classes say that as well. This part right here, how we are weighed down, we must always pave a way forward. I mean, in the sense of like moving on. You're moving on from something. Maybe there was something bad that happened, but you're moving on to the positive sides of it. Okay. Hope is a door, getting back to never get back to normal. I like this one too, to leave the known and take the first steps. That's meaning like change. There's change happening. They want you to try something new. It's going to be scary. It's going to be hard, but you got to just take that first step. This section right here, I actually kind of did it this way. This whole section is talking about going from a negative to a positive, which I thought was really neat how she did that. Okay. Then we get down to this last part here. This last part is kind of interesting because a lot of people don't know what for Auld Lang Syne means, like what that actually means. So I kind of just put a question mark there in the sense of what that actually means. And we're going to show you something here in a second. Okay, so if you didn't make your own annotations and you want to take some of my annotations, you can do that. So like the things that I underlined or the things that I circled or that kind of thing, you can write that on a piece of paper if you were not able to print. Okay, so that's what's going on there. All right, so for Auld Lang Syne, okay, actually on the other side of this, we have this as well. And what Auld Lang Syne actually means, if you come down here and look at it, is it can be interpreted for old time's sake. So for old time's sakes, we're going to do this. They're old friends. They're going to have fun. They're going to go back to adventures that they used to do. They're going to recall them. They're going to have that conversation and kind of go back to those memories, which is interesting because a lot of the kids in the classes that I had today, they were like, well, it's kind of like tradition. It's kind of like memories that they have of the past. They don't want to forget those memories, but they also want to move on from those memories, which kind of comes down to the fact of what this whole poem's about. We need to change. We need to move on. We're going to try something new, but we're not going to forget the past because the past has a lot of really great memories. Okay. So I'm going to have you just pause for a second because this song you may actually have heard before. So I'm going to have you listen to it. You don't necessarily have to listen to the whole thing, but I do want you to hear the song because you may have some memories from the song, or maybe you recognize it in some way. So really quickly, I'm going to have you pause this video and go back down here to the Auld Lang Syne. I want you to listen to that. So you can click on it. Again, you don't have to listen to the whole thing, but I do want you to listen to part of it so that way you can see if you have ever heard of it before or recognize the song. Okay? So go ahead and pause, click on that, and then come back. All right, so you should have listened to the Auld Lang Syne. Hopefully you were able to remember it. A lot of times that kind of comes into play like on New Year's. And kind of up here it says here, there's no specific reference to the new year, but it kind of comes back to that. It's like, okay, let's go back to seeing what we can remember about what happened, having those memories, okay? All right, so before we get into writing anything, I want you to get that sheet of paper back out that you brainstormed. And now I want you to think about that New Days lyric and what Auld Lang Syne means in the sense of traditions, memories being had. I had one student in one class talk about how it brings up a lot of emotion. And so maybe you have some more things that you can add to what you remember about 2022. Maybe there's other memories that stick with you. Maybe there's other memories that kind of drew those emotions out that stick with you as well. And if you have those, I want you to kind of brainstorm those on here as well, in the sense of, like, it could be a fond memory. It could be like a not so fond memory. like in the sense of you're not really happy about that memory, but you still had it. So you can kind of just jot some more things down if you remember anything. Because then what we're going to do here in a second is you're going to set yourself like a 5-minute timer or something similar to that. And on the right-hand side, you're going to write. Okay. So I'm going to give you an idea as to what that looks like in the sense of what we did in one of the classes I had today. So in our new notebook on page 2 is where we did this, but that's when you get back. So I have different things here that kind of happened. Those are my brainstorming things about 2022. And then what I did is I wrote a letter to 2022. And I just wrote to them like they're like it's a person, essentially. And so I said, hey, it's a pretty good year. Yes, we did have our ups and downs, that kind of thing. The things that stuck with me are these things. And then I kind of went into here. I didn't really spend, again, it was only 5-ish minutes. So I could go back in and kind of tell specific things that happened and why I remember those specific events. But I'm not going to add that in there right now, but that's something I could add in later. Okay. So you can write a letter. You could try to kind of style it in the sense of how she did her New Days lyric, if you want to try to do that. Maybe you want to try to include, I'll show you this. Maybe you want to try to include for old time's sake, or even just Auld Lang Syne, in the sense of thinking back to those memories. But anyway, I want you to set like a 4 to 5 minute timer, and I want you to write something. You're using the things that you brainstormed, and you can put that within your piece. Maybe explain it more, and do that kind of thing. But that's what I'm asking you to do. So go ahead and set yourself like a 5-minute timer, and I want you to write for 5 minutes. And then when you're done, I want you to come back so you know what to do next. Okay, so hopefully on your piece of paper, it should look very similar to mine. You had your brainstorming on this side, and you have your writing on this side. So what I'm going to have you do is I want you to take a picture of what you have, and I want you to send that to me in an email. Another thing I would like for you to send to me is if you were able to print this, I want you to take a picture of this and send me what your annotations were. If you were not able to print this, you can take a picture of that paper that you put the annotations and you wrote it on the back of there. You can just take a picture of that. I just want to see what you did, essentially. Okay. So take pictures of those, send them to me, and then when you get back to school, I will bring those with you, and then we will tape those into your new notebook that we have for you. Okay. All right. So that's really all I have for you. But again, make sure you do those things. Send me pictures of your annotations as well as your brainstorming and your writing. And then I'll see you when you get back, and we'll tape it in there.